Okay, so I've taken the hubs off on both sides, inspecting the spindles. These are in excellent condition. And right now I'm going to disconnect the hub from this old worn out brake rotor, and then I'm going to clean everything up over in the parts washer, and I'm going to repaint the hubs just because I like them to look nice, and throw some new bearings and seals in there. There's the seal on the back. You can see, so it's got that old grease in there. So I'm going to go ahead and disassemble this and start putting the brakes back together. Okay, I have the hubs and brakes and dust shields over there in the parts washer. I'm going to clean those up, change the brakes, but what I'm doing now, I'm going to replace a lot of suspension components, and this upper control arm, see, I've got the screw undone, or the nut undone, and there's like a little, a small gap I left, and then I put a jack stand underneath it, because when I break this loose using the ball joint press, I'm going to put this in here, like so. I don't want it to come all the way loose and slam down to the ground and let this spring fly out. I've got my spring compressor kit over there, but I'm going to see, since these were cut, I'm going to see if they go back in there. See if they come out without using that spring compressor. I bet you they will. Alright, just as I suspected, since this spring had been cut 3/4 of a coil, that allowed me to just lower the lower control arm slowly, and there was enough room for the tension to come off of the spring. The brand new spring next to the one that the previous owner cut a coil off to lower the car, and you can see, looks like he cut about 1.5 coils to 2 coils. So there's a big difference. This spring is going to get it back to ride height. And I don't know if you guys have used these before. These are excellent springs, and they're made by a Swedish company. I can't really pronounce the name. Les Jofors, and they make really good springs for these old Mercedes. I want to show the upper control arm. The bushings are in excellent shape, and the ball joint is very stiff. These are not worn out by any means. I can push it if I put a lot of force. There we go. There we go. So those are in great condition. The boot is not ripped. I'm going to clean this up, make it look a little nicer. I got grease everywhere. And then the shocks, man, I can barely push that down. But the shocks are Bilsteins. And so that's awesome. I already got a set of new Bilsteins on here. All right, what I want to show you now is the ball joint separator. I'm going to also take off the spring mounting perch, paint everything, put it in the parts washer. I'm going to get everything looking brand new. But yeah, these ball joints, time to go. You see the boots ripped there, and definitely time to go. Those are worn out. Here's the ball joint separator. You can get these. I'll show you the part number in a minute, but that just slips over. All right. See, that just slips right over there and cups around the bottom, and you can press out the ball joint. The part number, this is OTC Tools 8149. Works on 116s, 126s, 123s, and it's pretty cheap on Amazon. So I'm going to go ahead and put the impact on here and knock this guy out. Okay, I've got the spindle out of the car, and you can see the worn out ball joint is right there. And this is a pretty crude way Mercedes does this, but you put this little slug, I guess, on the ball joint, and you literally pound it out with a 5-pound hammer. And then there's another tool that you actually use in the press over there to press in the new ball joint. All right, this one came out surprisingly easy. It's some of the, because there was no rust in there. So this one didn't take a whole lot of force. See, they come out through the bottom, and there's little splined teeth around here on the inside, and like it holds it in place. But my parts washer now, and I'm just going to clean it up real good, get all the years of road grime off of it, and then get this thing painted up. This has got to be one of my favorite tools. It is a ball joint press made specifically for the spindle on these cars. So you can see it's got a cutout here, and it allows the spindle to go inside that arm like that. And then right here, it's hollow here, and the ball joint is up inside here, and it sits on the lip. Then it has a cup that just goes underneath it. And when I'm gonna do the press handle, and you're gonna see it just presses it right in there. So I'm not going to do this with one hand, but it's a great tool, and if you do a lot of these, everyone should have one. There we go. I just pressed the ball joint in, and you can see it's a very flush fit there. See, it's perfectly flush on the bottom. And let's see if I can show you a little more closely. So obviously this little cup sits inside. There we go. Just brighten the camera a little bit. This little cup sits underneath the ball joint, and see, it's hollow down here, and then it's slotted on the side. So you take this tool and you literally put it over the ball joint, and then it can fit around the control arm. That gives you a perfectly straight vertical press. I get the ball joint in, and I've cleaned up the dust shields. I like to paint them with this Krylon Color Max. This stuff is really good. That's just a satin black, and then I'll do a clear coat over it when I'm done, and it really makes things just look nice. Very nice. Got new ball joints. That one's still covered up from where I was painting it, but I put a nice gloss black on there and then did a clear coat over it, and that's going to look really nice when it goes back on the car. Here's the dust. Oh, here's the pieces that the tie rods connect into. Those are also painted and cleared. Very nice. And here's the brake dust shields. They're all painted and clear coated. That's going to be very nice. I like everything to look nice and brand new on these cars, and that's what you have to do on these cars. You can't just drive around with 40-year-old suspension components. That's ridiculous. So this thing's going to be badass when I'm done. So here we are at the brake control rod. Here's this front bushing that goes into the lower control arm, and then there's the brake control rod bushing back there. So to get this off, you have to remove the spring mounting perch, and I'm going to go clean that up, parts washer, and clean it. I put the screws back in there, but there's your bolt, and that actually there's a nut on the bottom. There we go. And that nut comes off, the bolt slides out, and then those pieces can come out of there, and the bushings can be replaced. So I'm going to work on that. All right, I have that front bushing out, and you want to see a weird suspension design. The way this works, here, let me undo this. You have these two, they're like little saucers or pucks. And then you have these rubber bushings. See the cutout in the bushing right there? So that cutout lines up with the brake control rod like that. Whoops. And there's a tab to, there we go. There's a tab right there to show you where it's lined up. And then this little like metal washer goes on top of it like there. Well, it goes on top of it like that. And the same goes for the bottom. You have the washer on the bottom. And then the bolt comes up through there. And that's what holds that. All right, so you can see I have the brake control rod bushing loose. That's just 3 bolts back here. It's much easier on a 123 compared to a 126 chassis. And you see the control rod runs into here, so you can't get it out without removing the lower control arm. And then when you reassemble it, you got to stick it in here first and then run it up into the body. So before I remove the lower control arms, I just put some white marks to show roughly where the alignment was. All right, I have the lower control arm out. Look at that bolt. Still got the plating on it. That's a beefy ass bolt. But brake control rod bushing is out. And there you go, I didn't disconnect them. Brought them out as a pair. And you know, once they're out, you can just slide that guy out and change this part. Here's the bushing that wears. You want to count the threads, so when you unscrew this one and screw the new one in, you kind of get about the same distance, and that'll make the alignment much easier. All right, so we have all the front suspension out, and man, I guarantee you those wagons selling on Bring a Trailer, man, none of this stuff has been done. And those things are going for crazy money. And you have to do this stuff on these cars. So anyway, I'm putting all new, brand new components in the front end, and this thing's going to be beautiful. Anyway, time to start putting new bushings in the control arms. Clean up these shocks. Those are new Bilsteins. They're still in excellent condition. And put the new brake control rod in, and then go down to Mercedes and pick up the front end parts tomorrow. Alright, I'm putting in the new brake control rod bushing, and you can see here that I've lubed it up with a little anti-seize. It's going to screw in here, and I counted 7 threads showing on the original. So let's just see if we can get that started here with one hand holding a camera. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, the spindles are done, and I just wanted to show this is a proper restoration. New ball joints, bolts have been taken out, and everything's been cleaned in the parts washer, painted and clear coated, and then like the Germans do on everything, blue Loctite was put back on the bolts and it was torqued back to spec. And this is what I like to see when I look under my car. There we go, these have been painted, clear coated, washed in the parts washer first, and it's going to be nice to put those back on the car. Alright, here's the parts I've finished so far. Brake control rods, dust shields, and the spindles. Alright, I've just painted some suspension parts out there and I'm letting them dry, and while that's going on, I'm tackling the throttle linkage bushing. So you can see you have it disconnected here, and there's a plate that goes here, and it has like this round ball, this bushing behind it. It feels like material that, if you remember old roller skates from back in the day, it feels like the material that the skate wheel is made out of. And these, here they go. It's made out of this type of stuff. I'm not sure what that is, but it deteriorates and crumbles apart. It's supposed to look like this. This is a replacement that a guy in one of the Facebook groups makes, and that is what the throttle linkage goes into. And I'm just greasing this up a little bit before I put it in there. If you notice, Mercedes puts a spring-loaded washer. See that wavy washer there? So it can give a tight fit. So we're just going to place that in there. Okay, and you'll see how the tip comes through. Now watch when I let go. See how it kind of springs up a little bit? That's what that spring-loaded washer does down there. So basically it keeps the fitment tight against the little C-clip that clips around the end. And these things are known to go flying across the room when you're putting these on or taking them off. So I'm not going to record that so I don't mess it up. So let me put that C-clip on there. Sorry about that. I wasn't watching what I was doing when I was recording the video. I actually put that in there backwards. It actually goes on there this way. So let's slide that down on there, and the C-clip goes on the back. And then that mounts into the firewall. And there we go. See, we have the C-clip back on there, and now it can pivot. The throttle linkage can pivot. So I'm going to go ahead and install this back on the car. Okay, so I haven't cleaned the motor or anything, but I just wanted to show that the new bushing is in there. You can see it right there. And we might be able to, I don't think we can peek behind there. Yeah, can't see behind there, but that's it. Stuck right through the back there. And I've also popped off all these connections and greased them with some automatic transmission fluid. But now we have a super smooth linkage. And I actually drove all the way back to Colorado with that bushing missing, and this was like, it was like pivoting right here, and I was just waiting for it to break, but it actually made all the way back. But that is the correct way. Look how smooth this all moves. You can see I've lubricated everything, and that's important. I will be cleaning this engine. I mean, it's not terribly dirty right now. I love that the Alda has not been tampered with on this. There's the original cap on the Alda, which is also a great sign. And I just refinished the hubs. I cleaned them up real good, and I'm putting in new bearings and seals. All right, and there we go. We have a nice cleaned up and refinished hub. There's still some old paint on there. It looks really good. And I got to pack these bearings still. There they are. And I'm going to, of course, pack the bearings with some bearing grease. And there we go. Very nice. Let's check this other one. Beautiful. I'll put those new bearings and seals on there, and then that'll be ready to go. I haven't put the bearings and seals in yet. I just wanted to hold up these nice new. There we go. That's going to go on the car. I love how it looks all clean and new. Well, the rotors are in fact new, but those are just refinished hubs. So that's going to be super nice to get back on the car. Alright, if you haven't done this before, it's kind of a pain in the butt. But there's a trick to it. First, you take a chisel and just a ball peen hammer, and here you go. You crush in the sides of that aluminum sleeve. See how it's flared out to hold the bushing in? So you just take that chisel, crush in the sides, and then you take an air hammer, like this right here. Thing's powerful. And you can stick it down here in the edge and air hammer the bushing out. And I think it's important to note, so that the control arm sits like this, and see the two tabs of the bushing are oriented on the top of the control arm and on the bottom. So when I put the other bushings in, I want those tabs to be in the same place. I just want to show you guys, I'm kind of at the tail end of getting the bushing out. I've hit it for about 30 seconds with the air chisel, but once you get it going, there you go, you can bust it out. But these air chisels are the best way to do this. Now that I have this side of the bushing out, when I flip it over, you can see there's that aluminum sleeve. That's where I used the punch to fold in the edges so the bushing would slide over it. And then you can take a hammer, you can put it in a vise, whatnot, and you can hammer it out so it comes out of this side, or you can just punch in this side like you did, like I did on this side. I'm going to just take a ball peen hammer and tap that out. Okay, so here's what comes with the new bushing kit. You see you get the 2 bushing ends, and you get the metal sleeve. And you'll notice the metal sleeve is only flared at one end. Once you put the bushings in, you got to slide the sleeve through and then flare this end. So let's just compare the bushings, the original Mercedes bushings, to. So you can see they both have a flat spot. There we go. There's a flat spot on one side, and then they're rounded on this side, just like that. And so the tabs on the Mercedes bushing, those tabs are lined up with the flat spot. And you can see in the replacement bushing, the tab is also lined up with the flat spot. And as we saw earlier in the video, those tabs, or those flat spots, are supposed to be on the top side and bottom side of the control arm, facing up towards the sky and down towards the ground. And then the rounded parts are what are on the sides. That's how you orient the bushing. You don't orient it like this, with the flat spots on the inside and outside of the control arm. It's the top side and the bottom side. So I'm going to go ahead and get these pressed in. So before I push the new bushings in, see there's a little bit of, let me turn the light on. You can see ever so slightly bit of rust right there. So what I do is I take this Scotch-Brite pad and I go in and I just smooth up the sides of the control arm, and then I clean it out with some brake cleaner. Just get it smoothed out again, and then I just put a light dab of grease on here so it slides in just a little bit easier. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, you can see I've cleaned this out on the inside. It's very smooth in there now. And I put a dab, like you don't use much at all, just a little bit of grease on the edge of the bushings so it just slides in a little bit easier. You actually barely put any on there. I'm actually wiping some off. And that just helps it to get started. Yeah, guys are going to say, no, you don't put oil in there or any grease in there because that'll deteriorate the rubber. No, it won't. You put just a little bit on there and you let it slide in there on your press. So I'm going to go over there to the press and I'll push this in now. Okay, so I've got the bushing on the press. And you can see it's important the tabs are aligned on the top and the bottom of the control arm. And that little bit of grease just helps it to get started. And you can see the bushing presses right in there. And there we go. That bushing is in place. Now you can see the bushing is in there nice and even, and it's not deformed on the inside. And that little bit of grease just helps it to slide in there a little smoother. And it's not going to hurt anything. Just put a dab on there. For the other side, you got to lower your press a little bit and then put a socket in there, or for the bushing on the other side, because the press doesn't go down far enough. That's why you got to use the socket. So I've already got this one started, and these go in very easily. So I'm just running the press down. There we go. that one is in there. Let me check the other side. Yep, it's in there perfect. Some brand new bushings. Now you got to put this pin through there, and the pin has a flange on one side, and you have to create the flange on the other. So let's just get that pin, push through there, and see how it fits down in the bushing. And now on the other side, see how it's not flanged. We got to create the flange. It's going to be tough to show you this with one hand, but here's how you flare the other side. See, the factory flares one side for you, and then you have to flare the other side. So what you do, and you can use 2 ball peen hammers, or you can use one of your lug bolts from your car, from your 123. See how it's got the radiused flare at the bottom? That's the same radiused flare right there. So you take the side that's already been flared and you rest it right there on the ball peen. Now once that's up there, and this is the part where I'm going to have to put the camera down, once it's up there, you just put your bolt down in there like that. There you go. You just have it like that right there. So that ball peen holds it in place while you whack it. You need to do it like whack it 2 times with a 5-pound sledge. There you go. And I'll show you what it looks like. Here's the finished product. I just whacked that with the 5-pound sledge and put the radius. See, it's flared now onto the bushing. That side is flared from the factory. Let me show you the other one. There you go. See? That side is flared, and there's the factory flared side. The factory always gives you a little bit more flare. They don't leave you much sticking through the other side, but you can still see it's flared out into the bushing. And that's how you do that. It takes you about 15-20 seconds. So I'm about to paint these control arms, and I'll tape off this area because that's where the brake control rod front bushing goes. But I like to get in here and really clean this up. I can't really do it on camera. There we go. Well, I can't really do it on camera. I like to clean it up. Sometimes I use a screwdriver, scrape off any gunk in here, and then polish it up real good so it's a smooth surface. Okay, I'm done polishing that with the Scotch-Brite pad, and it's very smooth now. I just like that to be a smooth surface. So I'm going to tape this off and then paint this control arm now. All right, so here are the restored lower control arms with new bushings and the new bushings for the brake control rods, and they look really nice. Got a little paint on the bushing there. It doesn't matter, but I don't like it. Anyway, they look beautiful. They look like brand new control rods from the factory. I mean brand new control arms from the factory. I'm going to go ahead and get these things installed in the car. Alright, I've started reinstalling the suspension. We have the lower control arm and the brake control rod bushing. And the trick is, see the hole in the brake control rod bushing? You have to get that hole in the center where the bushing goes into the bottom. So the hole on the brake control rod has to be in the center of the control arm. So you have to make some adjustments here. I tried to thread it exactly the same as I took off the car. However, since the bushings that were originally on the car were worn and now we have new bushings, it's going to change. So I had to bring the brake control rod in some to get it to line up. And there we go. That's what it looks like when it's assembled. You can see the bolt goes through the top back to the brake control rod, and you have to attach the brake control rod into the lower control arm and put the whole assembly into the car together. And then if you remember my marks for the alignment, see, I put my marks there and there. So that's going to get me kind of close. I've just started this driver side control arm, and you can see I've put the brake control rod into the control arm, and with the new bushings it's tough to get it up in there. See, the hole's not lined up, so I just take a mallet. There we go. And you can hammer it up into place. There you go, that one's starting to get aligned. So I'm gonna stop recording and do this. All right, you can see my first attempt. That's aligned pretty good in there. Let's see where that hole is. Okay, see, the hole is a little bit past the center. So those worn bushings that were previously in here had caused the control arm to sag down and forward. So I'm just going to loosen these bolts here and turn right here with a 19mm and bring the brake control rod in until that hole is aligned in the center. Don't forget to use blue Loctite on your brake control rod bushing bolts. The Germans always put blue Loctite. You can see there's still some left on there. They put blue Loctite on all of their stuff. There we go. There we go. There's a hole right there. So I'm going to get these lined up. Try to get these threaded in there. Alright, this is really the end of day 2. And we have a lot of the suspension back together. The control rod bushing, everything's been painted and clear coated. All new bushings have been installed. Starting to really look nice under here. Okay, we have the beautiful new tie rods, center link steering shock, and they have arrived. So first thing I want to do is, these tie rods came off the car. I'm going to make these tie rods as close as I can to the length of those. That way the alignment shop won't have to do as much work, and I'll probably be able to drive it to the alignment shop. And man, these look really good. Let's take a look in here, see what we got. Nice, very nice. Alright, I'm putting the new springs in here, and you can see I have the spring compressor and plates. And the way I do that, I get it compressed just enough to where you can kind of fit it in there with the control arm completely extended. And then I put a jack stand under the control arm and lower the car with the lift handle up there. And I lower the car down, and the spring will kind of slip into place. You don't have to fully compress it and then put it in there by hand. It's a little more difficult that way. And then I tighten the nut, or not tighten it all the way down, but I just put the nut back on the upper control arm, and I make sure the nut is threaded on the lower control arm. So then when I raise the car back up and remove the spring compressor, the spindle will hold the spring in place. Now I actually had to shave this tool, the spring compressor tool. I had to shave it down on the outsides because the aftermarket ones are a little too big to fit through these holes, and I didn't want to modify the body of the car. So I can't wait to clean all that off. But so I modified the actual tool. And sometimes to get the tool to fit back through the hole when you're loosening it, when you take the tension off of it, you have to stick a pry bar down there on the edge and kind of pry it into the center position like that, and then loosen it and kind of help it get up through the hole. It's really an annoying job to do, but you get the hang of it after you do a few cars. All right, now I'm working on the passenger side, and I just wanted to show you. You can see where I ground away the edges of the tool so it would fit through the hole in the because a lot of guys enlarge that hole but I didn't want to, you know, damage or modify the original car. So I ground away the tool. And I'm in the process of pulling it out here on the passenger side. And the trick is you got to get those little feet rotated and go up through the holes there. And then you got to pull out the plates. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out, and then I'll have the passenger side brand new spring in. All right, it's been a long couple of days, but the front end suspension is complete. New tie rods, new center link, new steering shock, new ball joints, new brake control rod bushings, brand new springs. Man, it looks beautiful under here. New Bilstein shocks, and just waiting on the rear seals, the bearing seals for the rear of the hubs, and I'm going to put on the new brakes, which are over here. And then I am done with the front end rebuild. That was a lot of work, you guys, but it is going to be totally worth it. This thing is going to ride like a brand new Mercedes. Guys, so I totally forgot to record this. I have the new bearing packed and installed, and I just put the rear seal on, and I forgot to show you how you press it in. I just put a couple of 2x4s on top of the rear seal. You can see the lip there, and then just press it in with the press, and the press will get it down there flush and even. And this is what the new rear bearing seal looks like, and that's the seal that goes around the back of the that's the seal that goes around the flange on the back of the hub here. So I'm going to go ahead and pack the front bearing. There you go. I've got to pack this bearing, and I'm going to use I just use Timken wheel bearing grease, and pack in the grease, put it in there, and then we'll get it put on the car. Before I put in the front bearing, I'm going to go ahead and mount or bolt the rotor to the hub. And you can see you have a couple of different options for putting the bolts, but the bolts only go in one spot. See, that's the only spot that they clear the side of the caliper. And you of course need to soak them in Loctite, or soak them, I mean, you of course need to put Loctite on them. That's what Mercedes does. To keep these guys from backing out. Honestly, I don't see how they would back out. They're going there so damn tight. And then we're just going to torque all those down to spec. So once I do that, I'll put that front bearing in, and then we'll get it mounted on the car. Okay, once you have the hub and rotor on, you want to tighten this. This is a lock nut. See, there's a little Allen key right there, and it pinches now and then holds it in place. So basically, see how I can wiggle the rotor? You don't want to crank this down. You just want to tighten it down till there's no more play in the rotor. That way it doesn't preload and overstress the bearings. There you go. That's right where you want it. You just want to take the slop out and you snug it up, and then you want to cinch that lock bolt down. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, before you put the bearing, I guess that's a bearing cap or dust shield, or before you put that on, Mercedes has these weird, it's like a copper little insert that goes into the wheel hub. You can see I put it in on this side, and that makes contact, I think, with the bearing cap, And it's something about maybe filtering out radio interference or something like that. I don't know. I've always put them on here because they always come with bearing kits, and Mercedes originally had them on here. And just press them down into the hole there. And then you put the cap on. And Mercedes does say pack a little bit of grease into the cap before you put it on. And then that cap just goes right over there. So I'm going to tap that on with a mallet. And there you have it, guys. All new parts on the front suspension. Looks really great under here. This is what they look like from the factory when a car is restored. This is what they should look like. This is the right way to do it. So anyway, that's it for the front end rebuild on the 300 TD, on the 1982 300 TD wagon. And so next I'm going to move to the back end and take those springs out that the previous owner cut, and you know, inspect the hydraulic, the SLS system, make sure everything's good. It was working when I picked up the car. I just want to do my own inspection of it, and that'll be the next video. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. This is going to be a really nice car when I'm done with it.